Srivasade Gaur. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 3, Chapter 28, Text 11. Pranayam merdahet doshan dharana his chakil vishan pratyaharena samsargan dhyanena ishwaran gunan. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. By practicing the process of pranayam, one can eradicate the contamination of his physiological condition. And by concentrating the mind, one can become free from all sinful activities. By restraining the senses, one can free himself from material association. And by meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can become free from the three modes of material attachment. So here we have been giving, the Lord Kapila Dev is saying, you do pranayam and your physiological condition will get purified. Then you concentrate, and when we concentrate the mind, what happens? Because the mind is occupied, so of course we will not do sinful activities. You see, when we are engaging in hearing and chanting, at least then we are not doing sinful activities at that time, you know. So, because we can't be doing two things, right? So when we are fixing the mind on Krishna, at least we are not engaging in sinful activity. By restraining the senses, one can free himself from material association. So how are we associating with this material world? You know, because we are the soul. We have nothing to do with this material world, yet we are so attached to this material world is because of the senses. And the senses are always looking for the objects to enjoy. So, but when we can fix our mind on the Supreme Lord, then we can become free from the three modes of material attachment, and that is liberation. Because everything in this world is a combination of false ego, and goodness, passion, and ignorance. We read earlier how combination of false ego in the mode of goodness creates the mind, false ego in the mode of passion creates the intelligence and the senses. Then false ego with combination of the mode of ignorance creates the sense objects, creates the, the sense objects, and also the material elements, earth, water, air, fire, ether. You know, so that's the reason it's so difficult to come out of this material world. Why? Because we are just so bound by this three modes. But if we concentrate our mind on the Supreme Lord, so our teacher of Bhakti Weber was saying, the mind is in the mode of goodness. And so because it's in the mode of goodness, it can come to transcend the mode of goodness and be situated in pure goodness. Because from passion, it's very difficult to transcend the modes. But from goodness, it's easier. That's the reason we are always being encouraged to come at least to the mode of goodness. So by getting attached to the Supreme Lord, we can get free from the modes of nature, means we can get liberation. Free from modes of nature means liberation. According to Ayurvedic medical science, the three items, kapha, pitta, and vayu, phlegm, bile, and air, maintain the physiological condition of the body. Modern medical science does not accept this physiological analysis as valid, but the ancient Ayurvedic process of treatment is based upon these items. Ayurvedic treatment concerns itself with the cause of these three elements, which are mentioned in many places in the Bhagavatam as the basic conditions of the body. So Ayurveda is the science of medicine. And based on that, we understand that kapha, pitta, and vayu, phlegm, bile, and air is what is maintaining this body. This body is phlegm, bile, and air. And so it depends. If the air becomes too much, then there are these diseases. When the bile becomes too much, then there are these diseases. So Ayurvedic deals with correcting these imbalances, the doshas. But what happens is now with modern science, not many people are actually undertaking the study of Ayurveda. So not many people, so it's becoming like kind of a lost science because there are no expert practitioners of the science anymore. Practically speaking, sure, there are many Ayurvedic doctors, well then, but some of them are effective, but many are not. So it's becoming like a lost science kind of. So here it is recommended that by practicing the breathing process of pranayama, one can be released from contamination created by the principal physiological elements. By concentrating the mind, one can become free from sinful activities, and by withdrawing the senses, one can free himself from material association. So pranayama is good to keep a balance of the vata, pitta, and kapha in the body. That's what Lord Kapila Dev is saying. And then when the mind is withdrawn, the senses are withdrawn from outside matter, we can be free from sinful activities. Ultimately, one has to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order to be elevated to the transcendental position where he is no longer affected by the three modes of material nature. So we are always thinking that I am this body, I am this person, this personality that we have come about to be. We are so attached to the personality. Well, some of us at least. That's why if someone says, oh, you are like this, you are like that, we feel hurt. Oh, how come you're criticizing me? But that's the personality which is totally material. It's totally to do with the body, We don't even remember who we truly are, what's our true personality, what's the original personality of ours. That is beyond the three modes of material nature. That's beyond. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that one who engages himself in unalloyed devotional service at once becomes transcendental to the three modes of material nature and immediately realizes his identification with Brahman. So pure devotional service. Krishna says that pure devotional service, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, na sochati, na kankshati. Pure devotional service begins from the transcendental platform, begins from the liberated platform, begins from the Brahma Bhuta platform. Because pure devotional service, the soul, the living entity has realized, I have nothing to do with this world. I am a spirit soul, eternal part and parcel of God, and I'm an eternal servant of God. And my dharma, my activity is to engage in the service of God. So that is pure devotional service, and that is on the liberated platform. That is not within the modes of material nature. Sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. For every item in the yoga system, there is a parallel activity in bhakti yoga. But the practice of bhakti yoga is easier for this age. So Ashtanga yoga begins with the do's, the don'ts, then the asan, yam, niyam, asan, pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, like this. So in bhakti yoga, we have the same things. And Ashtanga yoga, the goal is samadhi, to concentrate the mind on lotus feet of Krishna. But bhakti yoga goes beyond that. Fix the mind on Krishna and then do one activity. Engage in Krishna's service. So it includes everything of Ashtanga yoga and even more. So Ashtanga yoga is very difficult for us to perform in this age of Kali. And so we are given this bhakti yoga, which is very easy. What was introduced by Lord Caitanya is not a new interpretation. Bhakti yoga is a feasible process that begins with chanting and hearing. Bhakti yoga and other yogas have as their ultimate goal the same personality of Godhead, but one is practical and the others are difficult. So to approach Krishna is not very easy. Not very easy, but Lord Chaitanya has made it easy for us. He knows that we have no qualification at all. He knows we do not have that the austerity, the penances. We are not going to do all those things. He knows what we are really made up of. So he's told us, okay, you chant Hare Krishna, you hear from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and you will achieve perfection. By chanting the holy name, you will get love of God, which is the goal of human life, to revive our love of God. So Bhakti Yoga is practical because it's meant for us Kali-yuga people. But the process of Ashtanga Yoga is not meant for Kali-yuga people. One has to purify his physiological condition by concentration and by restraint of the senses. Then he can fix his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is called Samadhi. So Bhakti means engaging the senses in the service of the master of the senses. Krishna is called Rishikesh because he's the master of the senses. So Bhakti means engaging whatever senses we have in service of Krishna. Our eyes to see the deity of Krishna, our ears to hear the glories of Krishna, to hear the holy name, our tongue to chant the holy name, chant the glories of Krishna, our hands to wash the temple, to decorate the deity, our legs to go to the temple, So that is Bhakti. That is Bhakti. And then when we engage in that, then what happens? Our mind is going to easier to fix our mind on Krishna then. And then comes the point of Samadhi. So a pure devotee is already in Samadhi because his mind is completely fixed on Krishna. He acts only for the pleasure of Krishna. He speaks only for the pleasure of Krishna. Anything he does is for the pleasure of Krishna. That is a pure devotee. Is that okay? So it is our great fortune to be at this time on this planet Earth because Lord Chaitanya just was here 500 years ago and he's given us the chanting of the holy name. So reading on Yadamana Swam Virajam Yogena Samahitam Kastham Bhagavato Dhyayet Svanasagravalokanaham. When the mind is perfectly purified by this practice of yoga, one should concentrate on the tip of the nose with half-closed eyes and see the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is clearly mentioned here that one has to meditate upon the expansion of Vishnu. The word Kastham refers to Paramatma, the expansion of Vishnu. So here Lord Kapila Dev is telling Devahuti that when one is sitting in yoga, then the mind has to be fixed. Fixed on what? On the form of Lord Vishnu, not on anything void or not to make up anything or anything we like or some light. No. Fix the mind on the Paramatma, expansion of Vishnu. Bhagavata refers to Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Godhead is Krishna. From him comes the first expansion, Baladev. And from Baladev comes Sankarshan, Anirudh, and many other forms, followed by the Purusha avatars. So Krishna is the original form, the original personality of Godhead. The original person. His first expansion is Lord Balaram. From Lord Balaram comes the Chaturvyuha. Anirudh, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Vasudev. That's the Chaturvyuha. Then this Chaturvyuha expands into the second Chaturvyuha. Then the second Chaturvyuha, from the second Chaturvyuha, the Sankarshan of the second Chaturvyuha expands into Mahavishnu, the Purusha avatars. Does anyone remember who are the Purusha avatars?
Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Shirodakshaya Vishnu, and Karnodakshaya Vishnu.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So a description, as mentioned in the previous verses, Purusha Archanam, this Purusha is represented as the Paramatma or Super Soul. So which of the Purusha is the Paramatma?
Shirodakshaya. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. A description of the Super Soul upon whom one must meditate will be given in the following verses. In this verse, it is clearly stated that one must meditate by fixing the vision on the tip of the nose and concentrating one's mind on the Kala, or the plenary expansion of Vishnu. Kala. Kala means plenary expansion of Vishnu. So that is the Purusha avatars, the plenary expansion. So reading on, Prasanna Vada Nambojam Padma Garbha Runekshanam Nilot Pala Dala Shyamam Shankha Chakra Gadadharam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a cheerful lotus-like countenance with ruddy eyes like the interior of a lotus and a swarthy body like the petals of a blue lotus. He bears a conch, discus, and mace in 3 of his hands. So now Paramatma. So the yogi has to sit in meditation for thousands of years to be able to see the Paramatma. Here, by hearing from Bhagavatam, we are already coming to know that this is how the Paramatma looks like. So we are greatly fortunate. Otherwise, how would we know how does the Paramatma look like? I don't know if you all have heard before, oh Paramatma pe chhod do, all because of Paramatma, all that. But how does he look like? Here we are being told he has a Vishnu form. Cheerful lotus-like countenance with ruddy eyes like the interior of a lotus and a swarthy body like the petals of a blue lotus. He bears a conch, discus, and mace in 3 of his hands. It is definitely recommended herein that one concentrate his mind upon the form of Vishnu. There are 12 different forms of Vishnu, which are described in teachings of Lord Caitanya. One cannot concentrate his mind on anything void or impersonal. The mind should be fixed on the personal form of the Lord, whose attitude is cheerful, as described in this verse. So the Lord is not sad, he's not upset, he's not grumpy, he's not thinking, oh my God, I have to be in the heart of everyone. How many people's heart do I have to be in? He's not grumpy at all, he's cheerful. Imagine if it were to us, we get responsibility of one another person and we get so sometimes, so much under pressure. Oh, I have to take responsibility for someone else. Because we at deep down, we know we cannot even maintain our own self. How can we maintain another person? So the Supreme Lord, he's maintaining millions and gazillions of living entities, and he's cheerful. He's like, no problem. I can take care of anyone. So Bhagavad Gita states that meditation on the impersonal or void features is very troublesome to the meditator. Those who are attached to the impersonal or void features of meditation have to undergo a difficult process because we are not accustomed to concentrating our minds upon anything impersonal. Actually, such concentration is not even possible. Bhagavad Gita also confirms that one should concentrate his mind on the personality of Godhead. So our mind has to be fixed on who? It has to be fixed on God. Our mind, if we try to fix it on nothing, the mind is going to get restless. It's going to keep searching. Where do I find my shelter? The mind will go keep racing from one thought to another if we try to analyze. And then we are telling the mind that you should think of nothing. The mind will keep racing even more, searching for that nothing. Because in our experience, there is nothing. We have never experienced nothing or void. But the mind can find its true peace only when we can fix it on God. That's it. The mind is actually always searching for God. And when the mind is fixed on God, on the Supreme Lord, then it can find its peace. Then it really finds peace. The color of the personality of Godhead Krishna is described here as Nilotpala Dala, meaning that it is like that of a lotus flower with petals tinted blue and white. So this is the Paramatma in your heart, my heart, in the heart of every living entity, four-handed Vishnu form. And the color of his form is like a blue lotus, right? The blue lotus with blue and white, petals tinted blue and white. People always ask why Krishna is blue. The color of the Lord has not been imagined by an artist. It is described in authoritative scripture. So it's not that at one point of time somebody said, okay, the color of Krishna should be blue. And so then that's why he has blue color. No, the authorities who have seen it. Lord Brahma has seen Krishna. That's why he spoke the Brahma Samhita, the prayers by Lord Brahma. And he's describing the color of Krishna's body is compared to that of a bluish cloud. The color of the Lord is not poetical imagination. So there's some people who say that, oh, maybe Krishna is just mythology. Maybe he didn't exist. Maybe it's just somebody's imagination. You know, like how because we have so much imagination, we have these fiction novels. So maybe it is some fiction like that, Mahabharata, Ramayana. Who knows? But no, Krishna is not mythology. He's God. Krishna is God. The scriptures are not mythology. The scriptures are a fact. They are a fact which are there left behind for us to hear. They are recordings of the histories, the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are authoritative descriptions in the Brahma Samhita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and many of the Puranas of the Lord's body, his weapons, and all other paraphernalia. So it's like this. Suppose I see you and I describe how you look. So I'm not making it up. I'm just describing how you look. Now, if somebody else thinks it's an imagination, then the fault is theirs, not mine. I am describing. I see you and I'm describing you're wearing this clothes and your hair is styled like this and you have this shape of eyes. You know, I'm just describing. This is what Lord Brahma, he's seeing Krishna. So he's describing how does Lord Krishna look. The great authorities, Narad Muni, Vyasadev, you know, they have seen Krishna, so they just describe. And what we have to do, our duty is to hear. Our duty is not to challenge the great authorities. Our duty is to hear from them. The Lord's appearance is described here as Padma Garbha Runekshanam. His eyes resemble the inside of a lotus flower. And in his four hands, he holds the four symbols, conch shell, discus, mace, and lotus. So here, the Paramatma, he has lotus eyes inside of a lotus flower. That's how his eyes are. And the Paramatma has four hands. Voila. He has four hands. And in his four hands, he has, what is he holding? A conch shell, discus, mace, and lotus. So if someone says, I don't know how does the Paramatma look like, we can quote this verse and say, here, Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, chapter 28, text 13, gives us the description of the Paramatma. He has a Vishnu form, four-handed form, bluish color, eyes are like lotus petals, and he's holding a conch, discus, mace, and lotus. Yeah. And this Paramatma is sitting in our heart. We are not the Paramatma. We are not the Paramatma, but this Paramatma is sitting in our heart. The Paramatma is an expansion of Krishna. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the Paramatma is in there in the heart of every living entity. Animals, trees, plants, human beings, everyone. Reading on Lasat
question. I just have one question. So like when we have a transplantation, so then where does like at that time, what happens? Because the heart
So
comes
we
out and they change the heart.
So we are thinking always on physical terms, material terms, because our senses are only able to grasp the matter, right? But when we say the heart, the Paramatma is seated in the subtle region of the heart, next to the living entity. The soul is also there. Is there in the body, in the subtle region of the
This is the physical
of
heart.
the
What
heart.
they take out. So what they take
I'm
out is the
sorry?
physical heart.
Yeah, we take out is the physical heart. Yeah. And so because our senses are gross, that's the only thing we think of. It's just the gross physical senses. Yeah.
Okay.
Lasat pankaj kinjal ka pita kausheya vasasam Shri Vatsa vakshasam brajat kaustubham mukta kandaram. His loins are covered by a shining cloth, yellowish, like the filament of a lotus. On his breast, he bears the mark of Srivatsa, a curl of white hair. The brilliant Kaustuba gem is suspended from his neck. So here we have further description of the Paramatma who is there in our heart. So he's wearing clothes. It's not that the Paramatma is not wearing clothes. So the Paramatma has a form. He has a four-handed bluish form, and so he's wearing clothes. The exact color of the garment of the Supreme Lord is described as saffron yellow, just like the pollen of a lotus flower. So yellow, saffron yellow. The Kaustuba gem hanging on his chest is also described. His neck is beautifully decorated with jewels and pearls. So he has a form. That's why he's wearing jewelry, right? We can't put jewelry in the sky, right? We can't, not possible. We can't, Prabhupada would say, we can't wear clothes to the sky, but we can wear clothes to the deity, right? So the Lord also, the Paramatma, he has a form. He's in our heart and he's wearing clothes and he's wearing jewelry. And the Lord is full in 6 opulences, one of which is wealth. He's very richly dressed with valuable jewels which are not visible within this material world. So when we say God, God is omnipotent. He is omnipresent. He has 6 opulences in full. God has 6 opulences in full. Does anyone remember which are the opulences?
Beauty, strength. Beauty, strength.
Intelligence.
Fame.
Knowledge.
Knowledge, intelligence.
Fame.
Not intelligent, knowledge. Knowledge is there. Fame, yes. Beauty, yes. Strength, yes. And one of it we are reading here. Renunciation. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And wealth. So God has all these in full. No one is more richer than God. No one is more beautiful than God. No one has more knowledge than God. No one is more stronger than God. No one is, which one did we miss out? More beautiful than God. And no one is more renounced than God. So here we can see that God, he is there as Paramatma in our heart, and he's wearing all these valuable jewels, which we can't ever find in this material world. Not possible for us to find. So we may have some of these opulences to some degree. We may have some beauty, some wealth, some knowledge, some renunciation, some fame. Fame is one of the opulence. Some strength. But God has all this in full. No one can have it more than Him. No one is equal to or greater than God. That is the point we have to come to understand. That no one can be equal to or greater than God.
Sampurna. Sampurna, they say. Means full.
Sampurna. Full. Yeah. Full. That's right. Full in 6 opulences. Sampurna. Yeah. And,
Sampurna Kala.
Hmm?
Sampurna Kala, I think, na? They say.
Sampurna Kala. Full in all opulences.
Yeah.
And He's aprameyam. Means no one is equal to Him and no one is greater than Him. We can never at any point can we become God. So is it that, okay, I'm not God because I'm inside this body, but once I get liberated, I will become God?
No.
What do you think?
No, definitely not. We'll still be part and parcel of God. Can
That's
never
right.
be.
That's right. Thank you. Yes, we can never become God. We are all, as you rightly said, part and parcel of God. We are part and parcel of God, but not God. And we each have a loving relationship with God, each and every one of us. So when we are liberated, in fact, we can be situated in that relationship with God. And that is the point we need to reach to. We need to realize our relationship with God. Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening and joining in. Thank you for reading at this early hour.
Thank you.
Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.